And in the case of the UFOs, Alan, I think what was seeing about when we had the Pickering brothers here.
Yes.
I mean, even Victor, who is not inclined to be in front of the camera, he just leapt from behind the switcher, because what they were saying was so much more than had been said on any of the websites that he'd been visiting, and I think he figured that he'd been visiting, the edgiest ones.
Yes, it definitely goes beyond. Yes, it definitely goes beyond politics.
But what I'm saying is, hello.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. I just need to make another. Can I get back to you? Are you still going to be streaming?
Well, let me shut off the camera.
Wait. Okay.
Come back to me quick, because I want to. Hello. Farther down.
Harold, back again.
Hey. So you were watching. I just love that.
I was doing some other things while I listened and everything on the net, so I had a little trouble getting back. But it's good, Alan. Good to hear Alan and everything like that.
What's the voice like for you, Harold? Because Alan said I sound like my mother, but I'm about that age. I should sound like my mother.
No, I'm sorry. No, it sounds fine to me. I want to turn it down on my speaker. There, okay, talk.
So what do you think about this? It's 9/11 truth isn't radical enough. Isn't it that you mean politics in general, as it's generally practiced, isn't radical enough?
Well, yeah. In a sense, politics and because as you understand, with me, I got a different kind of perspective on things, and it's in my the basic major premise for me is, and it's the thing that is so staggeringly huge, it's hard to get your mind around, and it's so disruptive. It's sort of like moving from a geocentric view of the universe to a heliocentric view. It really messed up people's sense of identity. But my major thing is that there is a larger reality, let's say a new reality. Alan talks about new realities and so forth. That the condition has been qualitatively transformed. Largely, I would think it could be argued through the technological extensions of consciousness. That all the technology is an extension of consciousness, and it creates an environment other than, like in an Eden-like sense, is given, which is a lot of most all of the creatures and all of evolution of consciousness up until the present, that we have transformed material scarcity as a reality. I mean, in terms of our capability, it's all in the realm of capability, not in the terms of existing reality, but it is a qualitatively different condition if one is considering the human condition itself, within a context that there is enough rather than there being a condition of scarcity. And the condition of scarcity, it was the context in which all human institutions evolved, and we have transformed that through our technological success, in my view.
Well, in your view, but I bet it's in the view of a lot of people. I mean, I think it just boils down to, is the energy there or not?
Well, it is there now in a way that it has never been.
Right, and the downside is we can kill ourselves, but the upside is we never have to work again.
Yes, but not work again. Yeah, work is a very big word. Work is, we associate so much of our language, work, with the material world and the feedback mechanisms, and all of our institutions were set up within a context that, I don't know how to get to it even though, but it's just that yes, that's right. We have not been able to destroy ourselves at our own hands throughout all of history. They could never get everyone to line up and stick a knife in each other's heart. It wasn't practical, but it is now, since about, and so it's, when did that transformation occur? First of all, has it happened? Is it a possibility that we have enough, or that we have transcended scarcity? That would run against almost all of the notions that'll be trotted out about human nature, usually they will say human nature is inherently greedy and all that sort
Right.
Our institutions were formulated, our architecture, our thought patterns, all of our institutions, our assumptions of how capital is going to be utilized, how technological systems are going to be utilized, how the capital is going to be accumulated or formed to allow for us to do what we're technologically capable of doing, and more to the point, how income is going to be distributed to people when the technological systems are becoming increasingly responsible for production, and they're all owned by a tiny group of people, the investment class, and the people are not linked to the way things are actually being produced, which is increasingly technological.
So, Harold, you're saying that we have been misinformed about how much energy is available, and that we're not bad, we're not greedy or lazy or whatever. But by that same token, we shouldn't assume that those few people at the top, they also are not bad and greedy and so on, right? So that's why all the institutions, rich and poor, evolve at the same time.
Well, yes, I think that. I think there are no enemies, although I like you were talking, I heard you talking to Alan about Christine. She's wonderful. I think she's great. I think she could become a friend of us all, and she's a friend of the world and everything. But the idea to assume that justice and good and light is on the side of the evolution of consciousness is an assumption that I'm not prepared to say can be asserted in a fundamentalist sense.
Yeah, and you were citing
benign,
because you were citing how many times life has been wiped out at the beginning, or what were you citing then at the beginning?
Well, only just that 95% of the life was snuffed out at 65 million years ago with an asteroid, for instance. Or that see, my basic grounding principle is that the universe is synergetic. Mr. Fuller used to postulate synergy as the behavior of systems unpredicted by the sum of its parts. So there's something resonatingly more than the sum of the parts of a system. And when we get down into quantum mechanics or into physics and so forth and string theory, there really isn't anything existing in the universe except resonancy. And it has to be, you cannot assume that we're going to, as Bucky Fuller made it, we're going to make it. It may be that in terms of the larger pattern of universe, we are meant to entropy. And in fact, it would be to join chaos and destroy ourselves. And the odds are, by many people's reckoning, that that's what we're going to do, clinging to the outdated institutions and assumptions, rather than create a condition that would be liberating of the whole of the human society.
How do we do that?
In an appropriate ecological connection with the creatures and the existence.
How do we do that, Harold?
Qualitative transformation.
How do we qualitative?
There's nothing certain about that. There's nothing fundamentalist, even just some scientific principle or anything, and we won't know until we get there. But our task is to make this one, which can make possible, in my thinking, the full maximization of the potential of each individual human being on this planet within an ecological context that would be like an orchestra that is every piece in the orchestra is playing full maximum, so it'll be a fulfilling of that. And then there will be a resonancy that'll inter-accommodate us to universe at a level transcendent to what we've been throughout 200,000 years of human evolution of the biological process, apexed by human consciousness, by the evolutionary process and universe, which is postulated as a anti-entropic function in universe to move across entropy, or the second law of thermodynamics, which says all systems move toward chaos or entropy, and that we have a syntropic or synergetic anti-entropic function in universe to biological existence, and we're being tested as though we are in the womb. And we are coming now to a time when it's time for the water to break. And whether or not we'll be able to come awake to the need for qualitative liberating transformation of the human spirit that'll allow the orchestra or the people with the people that make up the human society collectively, probably heading for about 10 billion, the UN tells us, and so forth, in time that we will make that transition. It would be like a speciation. Speciation occurs within a very quick period of time in what, Stephen Jay Gould and those people call, or Eberfeld, they say is punctuated equilibrium. It happens all at once. So we'd be introduced into a new relationship to the universe, and it would be a synergistic resonancy with higher levels of consciousness that we may or may not achieve. And there's nothing that says we are definitely going to do it, nor can we rest on our laurels about the systems that we've inherited out of history, where there's so many people who think they have the answer and the reading of the universe in a large spiritual context. And it's touch and go, and it will be touch and go right up to the final moment. So that kind of a context, even if 9/11 truth is real, or even if there's all these bad things and it's terrible and it's outdated and there's a new potentiality that's not being realized, it's incumbent upon those who are interested in trying to provide an alternative that is, again, as I've said to you on a couple of occasions, it's not enough to find the bad guys and provide an alternative. What might that be? People that are in the movement or people generally of the left or something, they would have something called socialism or something that gets rid of the evils of the private sector and that sort of thing. I don't think they have an alternative that is able to subsume the old established institutions, because they fall down. We go back into a dialectic of them being the bad guys. You don't have anything to do with that. And we go back into a dialectic built out of a condition of scarcity, out of which we're transcending. But you have to have a system where there are no losers. There's nobody, and you have to have a system that's going to be able to be not only subsuming of the traditional patterns, but providing an alternative that will not only liberate the masses of the people, and a vision of that, but will also, and this is the tricky part, be so comprehensively appropriate to the evolution of universal consciousness that that pattern will be able to be understood by those responsible for the historically inherited institutions. They have a sense of responsibility for that, so you have to have a respect for that. But understand that those people responsible for those institutions are not your leaders in that larger context. They're not the leaders. They are reifying and maintaining the systems that we've inherited, and they have a sense of responsibility. So there's no loser, there's no enemy, except ignorance of the larger context of how we're going to organize the Bucky Fuller called it, we need an operating manual for spaceship Earth, or we need an operating manual for understanding things in that large comprehensive context, and it's never provided in any of the discussion that you hear anywhere.
Well, maybe Bucky Fuller figured it out. Maybe that's our journey. We're supposed to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Because I think that people don't want to give up their leaders. I think people are less inclined to give up the leaders than the leaders are inclined to give up their power.
I think so. Eric Fromm said one of the things that's people realize people have been conditioned.
Yeah.
A long evolution of consciousness and to look to leaders.
Right. And like tomorrow with Nico Haupt, if he didn't make comments today, he's going to be talking about Alex Jones. And you should see the generation of positive and negative response that I've gotten on YouTube.
Well, from him, from Alex, and from
Well,
right.
no,
Alex
because
great.
Well, I know, but Nico Haupt was pointing out that the people are more inclined to follow him and to take his agenda than to think themselves. And 9/11 truth has not been resolved. I mean, I can't really say. I don't know how the towers came down.
Oh, yeah, right.
See?
Well, that's a thing that is proving how evil the people are.
Well, what I'm saying is, you can think that Alex Jones is doing.
They did. Even if they did, that still begs the question: how are we going to organize things on the basis of what?
Well, that's precisely what I mean. Even Alex Jones isn't going to be the answer. That's the point.
Yeah, well,
Because-
I don't think so. I think it'll be a collective. You were talking earlier, we need to get some sort of, not enough to be able to communicate. Everybody's streaming a channel of unadulterated, beautifully edited, beautifully put together documentaries about the reality, but to get a sense of what that reality is, or the vision that's required for us to successfully navigate
Right.
birth of
Right,
this
right.
new order, is one that calls for a comprehensive understanding of what's happening, rather than arguing the dialectic goods and the right and left and all that kind of stuff coming out of history. And it really comes from the realm of intellectual or design science. Buckminster Fuller used to talk about design, and he never did postulate that he had the answer or anybody had the answer, because we don't have it. And probably the odds, if I were to take a bet, I would probably say that we're probably heading for destroying everything.
But then something.
Rather than
But then.
making the transformation.
But then something.
Positive, there were probably systems in the universe that may have achieved that, but we're the only one we know now.
But now, Harold, just to make sure that you're not hiding behind, intellectual hyperbole, as they say.
Yeah.
What about the moon landing and that book Dark Moon that Sean and Clay Pickering were talking about? Like you said, you weren't able to view it properly because of life. You had other things to do. But this is something I want to pursue with Alan, because he participated as a host in 1/3 of it. He was there for 1 hour. These guys stayed with us for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that in order to get to the place that you're talking about, we should at least, with generosity, forgiveness in our hearts, being very magnanimity, we should be able to say, you guys fooled us, but we figured it out now, and let's all proceed together.
Well, that's all well and good. I just wish there was see, I'm frustrated because there is no venue. There is no venue for what I just said.
But what I'm proposing is, what I'm proposing, Harold, is that take a look at it, put a little energy into it, take a risk, be shocked, be horrified. Christine Ebersole went through, when she met Jim Fetzer for the first time, we had tickets.
At your place?
No, not at my place.
Before, yeah,
No. Jim Fetzer, when he first came to New York, had tickets to see Grey Gardens. So he took me, and we went backstage. And the first time they saw each other, they embraced, and they both cried.
Isn't that wonderful?
And because this was very stressful for her, with her career and all that. But even just a human being, it's stressful to come out and to tell somebody something that they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
But if you're fortified with the perspective that you're talking about, and I know, since I've known Alan, he's had a profound faith and belief in civilizations higher than ours that are contacting us and just waiting for this wake-up moment. And then people...
that's an assumption that I would be very uncomfortable with.
I understand.
Borne out by... I think that...
But I'm saying, but just a second, Harold, I'm saying that his perspective can be a cop-out, and so can yours. And people like Webster would say that Martin Luther King wasn't knocked off until he tried to organize the garbage workers, because that was reality. And the reality is that wealth is labor-based, and when you have the unions up in arms, they can stop things. But if you have these advanced technologies, all of a sudden the unions become superfluous because the wealth is not being generated by the labor.
But it has been throughout human
Yes.
history, almost all of human history, the wealth or the advancement of economics, let's just say, has been based and was dependent completely upon human labor participation.
I know, but
and that's intellectual and physical.
But can you see how scary it is to embrace the change?
I'm trying to say...
How scary it is, because it means that by saying I won't work anymore, they'll say, oh, so what? We don't need your work anyway.
Why you have to differentiate, if I may, when you're talking about a liberated context. Work or a job are complete 180-degree opposites.
Right.
A work is a painter painting. I've known friends of mine, artists. You cannot drag them away from the canvas when they're doing their work.
Oh no, but I'm talking about power and politics
Power
and
is
changing
economics
things.
by and large.
No, so I'm saying that if you don't give us fair housing, if you don't give us health care, we're going to stop working for you. We're going to quit our jobs.
I don't think that's going to work so well now, and that's what makes it more dangerous, because there was a time, my granddad was a labor organizer in Detroit, and boy, they got their heads busted for trying to have the timidity to say that workers should have something to say what's going on in the Ford factory and that sort of thing.
Well, Webster...
They were needed. They were needed, and they were able to. We had a golden era, the 40s and 50s, when the labor things, you could work and you could do really well. And now the input in real terms, that's the second thing. That's Kelso.
Right.
And I mean, the second thing is, if you take a measurement of how things are produced, I just thought about it. I got this thing that lets me do a DVD on my computer now, and it goes through about 1 million different permutations. Everything's all going on 1 million times. And if you have an image of Emmy, what's her name? Tomlinson, remember that woman who used to connect the telephones and sticking everything into everything? It's all being done lickety-split, going at 1 million miles a second, and it's all going on within a program, and it has nothing to do with anything any human being is doing. So the production, the actual production, probably, at least Lewis postulates, and he's way outside the realm of any of the political economic thinking. He's the only one I know, except maybe, I don't know, from my way of thinking, maybe Muammar Gaddafi. What they're trying to do in Libya might be an example that is relevant to the system. But we're going to have a system where we're going to get past all those materialistic things. What do you do when you know you've got enough? And then it'll be free people to be interested in the things that really matter. Love, relationship, all the kind of things that are people that really matter, other than the production of goods and services that everything is subsumed by now. So you got to have a different economic way of relating people to the economic production. And ultimately you can do a utilitarian thing by realizing that the people who own the technologies, which are galloping now in terms of their productive capability to provide everything for everybody in a reasonable sense, they're going to need people that are able to be a market to buy. This is a little short term, a market ability to buy what can be produced. So you're going to have a different economic system than any of the ones that are operative in the world today.
I'm wondering, to
the way things are actually being produced, rather than the myth about how important human labor is for everybody. All the serfs on a feudal estate, or they pulled the rocks, and slaves. It's been a slave system, and all those people got a sense of identity by what they're doing. And if you're not going to need the people, it's very dangerous on the other side, because if you really don't need people to do something now, and it can be done in automated systems and so forth, then people are very, short-sighted, quasi-evil content. They say, we don't even need the people to work our machines anymore. Hell with them. Let them die. There could be a very, that kind of an attitude could be manifest by people who don't have a vision of how to do it. And the socialist thing, I don't think is going to work. It's not. Everybody on the left assumes once we get rid of the corporations and the evil corporations who bring down trade centers and all that kind of stuff, be okay. And it's just that bad guys. We're going to get rid of the bad guys. It's the same bullshit that's been going on throughout all of history, where a group thinks they've got the truth and justice and light, and the universe even is on the side of truth and justice and light. And that's an assumption that may not be the case in this condition that we're in. We have to be open to real transformation, like leaving the womb. You see? And that's the thing where there is no venue. Right. There's no place where you can bring that up, because they'll just say you're naive, or you don't understand the realities of the political thing, that these guys are really bastards.
Right.
We got to knock them off, or we got to describe to the world just how terrible they are who are running the world, that kind of thing.
Harold, what's so beautiful about Christine Ebersol's work is her interpretation of Jackie Kennedy's aunt and first cousin is one of extraordinary empathy, of what it's like to be in the oligarchy that has kind of fallen, you know, because these particular people lost their money. And I think it gives an insight into the struggle that everybody goes through. And I think if people are rich, they would say, well, you know, I had to bring down the towers or whatever participation they were making in that, because in order to keep this scam going, a lot of people have had to sell out, and whistleblowing is scary. So she in her artistic interpretation has managed to go right into the heart of the issue, which is, what is life like without money? And she showed these.
Wait a minute.
Harold,
could I just stop for a second?
Harold, they were eating.
Life without money.
No. Excuse me. If you look at Gray's Gardens or the documentary,
I don't know.
Jackie Kennedy's aunt is in this derelict house. It was a beautiful house at one time, but it's so run down that they're eating cat food. That's how it is. And so I can see people saying, well, my God, I don't want to sink that low, so therefore...
Absolutely. Nor do I want anyone to.
No, but I can say people can justify doing things like covering up 9/11 because they don't want to be there.
Well, they also have... I've done a lot. I've been doing programs forever, you know. And I used to do a lot of programs with what would be called establishment figures.
Right.
I would do it all the time. And I always used to... and I don't have an enemy sense, you know. The program that aired today, you don't watch the MNN, I guess, right?
Well, the stream doesn't work. You know, if I can get it on the internet, when Jacob was there, I used to be able to get it more reliably, and now I can't get it all the time. Well, cable's $50 a month, and I'm putting.
I see, right? Okay.
I'm putting all my assets into
today
developing
also
this.
might become a friend of ours, you know.
Who?
Her name is, the one that aired today was really good. I got to give her a call, in fact. But her name is Lucinda Watson.
Uh-huh.
And she grew up in very, you know, technologically relevant. She was the granddaughter of the founder of IBM, and also the CEO right up to the modern experience with her dad. So she was in the realm of the movers and shakers, you know, in the top realm. But she's really good. She's written a book, How They Cheat. She's really good. But that's like a thing. And I used to find among the people that are in.
Oh, can you hold just 1 second? Hello, farther down the rabbit hole.
Are you still broadcasting?
Yeah, shall I call you back?
You are broadcasting?
Yeah.
But do you want to talk? Or just...
Oh, let me say goodbye to Harold then. You want to talk more?
Well,
okay, bye. Harold?
For a few hundred thousand people or something, and responsibility to make sure the lights go on.
Right.
And that the thing. Goes.
Say, Harold, Alan wants to say a few words.
Oh, well, okay. You want me to hang up now?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll hang up then, okay?
Okay, stay tuned.
Good talking to you. Keep up the good work. I'm going to send you an email about that event tonight.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Alan?
Yeah?
Okay. So, what were you going to say before I had to end the show?
I say Virginia Gray called from Texas. Looking for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How exciting.
It is exciting.
Do you have her number? Well, don't give it to me now.
Are you on the air?
Yeah, well, we're streaming.
Oh.
I mean, I give my number out left, right, and central, but other people might not be the same way.
I am also going to interview Whitley. All your listeners and viewers may want to know Whitley Strieber. Thursday, he might have some time for you as well, because I got the studio at M&N for about 4 hours.
Fabulous.
So,
Okay,
anyway,
that's good.
You can help on Thursday.
So, do you want to finish up that thought, or it's too far
What was
gone?
the thought? Oh, the thought was a whole politics discussion about. I'll just outline it again. Are you starting another show?
No, but I'm finishing this up, and we're still streaming. Harold might be listening.
Oh, Harold. Hey, Harold.
Yeah. I mean, I'll put another tape in.
No, I don't have that much time. time right now because I have to go
Okay,
out.
so you have 2 minutes.
I have 2 minutes for the end of the show?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Then let me just sum up the
Well, see, what I'm getting at is the Van Allen belts and the fake moon landing. I think all of the
How
stuff
do you
that...
know anything about the Van Allen belts?
Well,
It's
what I'm...
fabrication. The
No,
Van
what
Allen
I'm
belts.
saying...
What does anyone know
No.
about that?
Listen, hang on. What I'm saying is, when you're talking about reverse engineering aircraft, or Harold's talking about scarcity's been transcended, I think the very least we can do is to do some research on people, or at least read the books of the people who have studied the Van Allen belts and have said...
Who even mentions the Van Allen belt? What is the Van Allen belt supposed to do anyway?
Well, according to Dark Moon by Percy and Bennett,
Yeah.
that Clay and Sean Pickering, who we interviewed for 3 hours, I mean, it's at least worth watching the interview that we did with them.
Well, what are they-
Harold totally fessed up that he wasn't able to watch it that very carefully that day.
But what's the story about the Van Allen belts? What are they supposed to do?
There is so much radiation coming through the Van Allen radiation belts that you have to be shielded, and that all the monkeys had died, and if there's a hidden black operation going on, they would shoot astronauts up that probably didn't come back because of the Van Allen
But
belts.
they were shielded,
And that-
the astronauts, in the capsule.
And that this one that we saw was a showpiece.
But
It
the
was
astronauts were shielded. The
They-
capsules had special insulation shielding,
Well-
lead,
well. I don't really want to get into the details. What I want to get into is setting
what
up
do you want to get into?
a protocol and a platform for developing new realities, or what Harold is talking about, getting at this place where the institutions are transcended. I think the people have to see through it. The leaders and the people, I think, ultimately are on two sides of the same game, the deceived and the deceivers. And neither of them is the fullest potential of a human being, of the human experience. Tyrant and victim, deceiver and deceived. And so where does that change come from,
Well, I don't know. So what are you asking me?
How important you think it is
How important? I think what is?
to study it, to study these things.
Well, of course it's important to study these things, but we were so uninformed, we don't even know what direction to study. And knowledge is being kept from us. And we do have to, like Sean and Clay, make our own research.
Well, Sean and Clay spent years at it.
I know they have, and they are brilliant, and they are a very valuable resource for New York and for everyone who are listening. So,
Right. Right.
I think,
I want to go farther down the rabbit hole.
okay, how far do you want to go down that